Hi everybody, Judge Gudge here, and here's a little model that I need to do a base for, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to have a plinth base tutorial. So this is what I'm going to make my plinth out of, and I need to buy a specifically made one. I can find one in a local shop with this tube of toothpaste. You see here it's got a nice sort of flared base now, which should make it look quite nice. So it's just got a little lip on the inside that stops it being flush with the table. So I'm just going to cut that out. So it's a case of snipping around the sides, folding those in, and then just clipping them off. Not difficult. And then there's a little mould line at the top here. Whatever you're using, just keep an eye out for any mould lines that will be there from when that was originally pressed. It's just a case of using some fine grit paper to sand that off. Once that's all done, I'm going to use some cork to build the basic mass on the base. So I'm just going to break a piece off, roughly the right size. But I'm only going to use about half of this because I want an uneven surface. I want to create a feeling of cracked and broken concrete. So I'm going to take about half of that and glue that on, and I'm going to use some milliput here that's been rolled and left to cure overnight. You could do this with plaster of Paris. Just put some in the top of a spreadable butter tub or something like that, so it can just dry flat, easily breaks and snaps, and it's a nice material for creating all these cracks. Now, rather than glue them down, I'm just going to use some Vallejo plastic putty. It gives it a bit of surface. It will dry eventually and hold everything in place like glue. But at the moment it's soft, so it enables you to punch through the surface into it, and this enables you to create lots more cracks and bits and pieces, and you can keep moving things around and adjusting it until you're happy with the way the surface looks. So I'm just using my tweezers here, breaking off the little chunks and fitting them in. Try and create a natural looking sort of cracked surface here. So it's just a case of see a space, break a piece off, fit it in, push it around a bit until everything starts to line up. Okay, now that that's done, I'm just using a cheap coarse hair brush to smooth the Vallejo putty. So I'm just using that, just washing it over, as it's water soluble, and this enables you to fill in a few of those cracks, just so that they're not all really deep. You can vary it and use it to blend in the surface with the cork and everything. So just find any little pieces you've missed, you can always stick a little bit more in. Okay, now I'm just going to use my hobby knife to tidy up the edges here. I don't quite want so much hanging off the edge, and I can also add some little cracks and chips and scratches and things like that to the surface, just to weather it in a bit. Some of the cracks looking quite so neat. This is a little road sign I've made. It's just a plastic card piece of pipe and a small square of plastic card which I've sanded the corners, and then a little piece of milliput on the back just to make it look like it's bolted on. So I'm just going to put this in the base with a slight angle that can sit there behind the orc, and just add a little extra interest to the base. So I'm just going to make a pilot hole with a sculpting tool here, and then I'll use my pin vise to drill out that hole, and then I'll widen that with my knife, just so that I can squeeze the road sign in. Now that's glued in, we'll take some PVA glue and we'll attach some little pieces of rubble and what have you. I'm using some pre-bought bricks, but you could easily use little pieces of cork or little stones or whatever it is that you've got in your basing box. Like I say, I'm just using these pre-built, pre-made bricks, and I'm just cutting them up. Quite nice. You can get some nice sharp corners, and makes everything look a bit more man-made. Yeah, the rubbles come from buildings and stuff like that. So now they're glued on, I'm just going to use some gravel mix to add more detail to the surface. So where I've put PVA, lining that sort of join between the two levels where a lot of rubble will pool and deposit and around the bricks and things like that. Wherever you can get more different sizes of material, it all helps to add more realism. Now, taking some PVA, I'm just going to glue on a couple of watch pieces. You could use anything here, magazine from a bolter, whatever you've got lying around really. It's just to add another level of detail to break up the monotony of sand and gravel and stuff, just to give it that next stage of detail. I'm going to use some Vallejo grey pumice here to just tie together the gravel and the rubble and the surface. This will go on as a paste. It's water soluble and leave some very fine grains, just to try and blend in all the sand and gravel and bits and pieces. I've added a base coat of grey here, and now I'm just going to give that a wash of Agrax Earth shade. Just add dirt and pick out those cracks. Highlighting up each piece of concrete now using some thinner glazes of a very light grey. Just working on one edge where the light's coming from, just brushing towards that edge and lightening each of these panels. Just going around the edges now with some more Agrax Earth shade, darken those bits where I want to show more of the undersoil and the lower areas, and this will help the grey of the broken concrete stand out a bit more. Just adding a few more layers of the very pale grey, slightly thicker, and just trying to get the edges a bit more, just trying to get them to stand out just a little bit more. Base coating the metal for the sign now, I'm using Vallejo Model Air Rust, but you could also use GW's Warblock Bronze. So it's just a case of getting an even coat on here. With the base of the rust done now, I'm going to use a mix of rust and Vallejo model as chrome, about 50-50, and it's going to be my first layer. So in the recesses and the lower part of the tube and the parts around the clamp, I'm going to leave the rust there. So we'll add a few layers of this, building it up, and then we'll move on to just a layer of pure chrome. This should create a nice aged metal feel. Next I'm going to take some Vallejo German grey and thin this down quite a lot and use that as a very thin glaze in the lower areas and the recesses, so I'll have the effect of dulling the shine and darkening those areas as well. This all helps to increase the feeling of age on the metal. With the metal done, it's now time to paint the sign. So I'm just going to take some Avalon Sunset and just paint around the edge of the sign. Now I'm just taking some very thin brown paint, some dryad bark, and just using that to dirty up the sign a bit. So I want quite a sort of desaturated brown, because this is just general muck and grime that's built up on the sign. We'll be adding some rust effects to it later. Okay, I've added a decal here. You could add whatever decal you want, or freehand something onto the sign, it's up to you. I've now taken some Rhinox hide and a sponge. I'm just applying this to create the feeling of scratches. I've also done the same with a little bit of light grey on the actual decal, just to look like the black paint has scratched off the white surface. Now that those scratches are on, now I'm just going to flesh a few of them out with a brush, just to make them look a bit more scratch-like rather than lots of little random chips. And now I'm just going to underline some of these scrapes and chips with Vallejo model colour Ice Yellow, so just help create a little 3D effect on the scratches. Make it look like the paint has actually come away. Using Vallejo Panzerace's light rust, I'm just going to use it quite thin, as you can see, and I'm just going to use that as a wash over the chips, going in a downward motion so that you get the rust running. So I'm trying to do this down towards the ground, not in line with the pole, so it's more in line with gravity rather than the pole. and then I'm using some of that to add a little bit of rust colouring around the edges and the recesses where rust has run into those areas. Using a pencil now, I'm just going to go around each of the chips where they meet the edge of the sign, just to give that a little bit of shine. And here's the final result. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial and you found it of some use. Maybe it'll inspire you with your display basing, or just help you improve your regular basing. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Maybe you have some ideas for some other bases in the future that you'd like to see me have a go at. Leave a comment and I'll see what I can do. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe.